Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musum.
Hey.
And Mina.
Hi.
Let's just dive right into it. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
Not a whole ton, but...
All right, moving on.
we'll start with... I played a little bit of the Dune game again for Sega CD. I don't remember exactly what I told you guys last time, but, you know, basically the battery in my Sega CD's dead, and I haven't split the $150 for the RAM cartridge. And so I played the intro again, thinking, maybe I can just play through this in one sitting. And after a couple hours, I'm like, no, I can't do this.
Right.
And so I looked up kind of how to change the battery on it, which didn't look super hard. But the problem is the battery's soldered to the board of the Sega CD.
Right.
And I think the last time I soldered something was in college. And I don't own I guess the video, they kept calling it a solder sucker, which is probably a really common tool for people who solder a lot. And for me, I've never heard of it before.
Right.
So I just took it to our local game store, Throw House Games, and they're going to do it for me and replace it with a like a battery case for it, so I can replace the battery.
Oh, that's super cool.
In the future, yeah. It's only like $30 to get them to replace it too.
That's a steal.
So, Thrill House Games in Tulsa, if
you're in Tulsa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the other game I've played a bunch of is Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark.
Oh yeah, I bought that on sale this month, and then I shipped my Joy-Cons back to Nintendo. So,
I need to do that with one of my pairs of Joy-Cons. Like, how exhausting is it to call them and get that done?
Oh, you fill out a form on their website. Super easy. And like within 2 days, they email you a UPS shipping label and then like slap it on a box, dump it in a UPS drop box. Like you don't even have to go into a UPS store, and then it'll find its way to us. Like I didn't have to deal with any single human being, which is awesome.
That is amazing. I am doing that after this podcast.
Yeah, all I did was Google Joy-Con repair form or something like that. There's like a full form to fill out on Nintendo.com. It's super easy.
Awesome. Oh, that's such good news.
Yep.
Like they've been broken for so long, and I have not wanted to sit on a half-hour phone call with Nintendo support, you know?
Yeah, the only thing you'll need is like your Switch's serial number just to say like, I own a Switch. And then it was free. It's way out of warranty, and it was even free.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah. Now I just got to wait for like 2 more weeks for them to show back up. Which is fine because it's free. Like, take your time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark. So they released the DLC, which I think is like $12 or something like that.
Right.
And I think they discounted the game too, because you said you got it on sale. I don't know if that's still going on, but
yeah, I got it for like $5 off. Maybe it was a pretty good deal.
So I still really like this game. I'm not convinced that the DLC is worth an additional $12 so far.
Okay.
So the DLC is more of a I don't know what term to use. We'll call it an extra stuff like thing. So it just adds extra things to do during the main campaign.
So it's not like another mini campaign. It's just sort of like they sprinkled stuff throughout the whole base game.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I'll go over the features. I've unlocked a chunk of them, right? So they added 3 new classes. I've unlocked 2 of them. You unlock the classes with missions. So they basically added a bunch of systems that all kind of feed into each other. So they have a new currency that I didn't write the name down of, but you use that currency to either build buildings in a region, which give you bonuses like if you go on patrol in an area, then you can make a building that'll give you auto renew, which makes your characters heal every turn, or auto defense up or res up or stuff like that. You can increase rewards with buildings and such like that. Or each region has a bunch of missions you can send characters on. And this is how you unlock the 3 new classes. This is how you recruit monsters.
Right.
This is how you get a bunch of new components. And the way the missions work is like... honestly, the game I keep thinking about is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Where,
okay. Now you're talking my language.
I mean, it's that same deal where you go to this... You have a bunch of missions, and they're just going to abduct 2 of your characters for 20 or 30 minutes.
Right.
And you're just going to run the game, and it runs on real-world time, so you can wake up, set some up before work, come home, and they'll be done, you know?
Okay.
So it's kind of a harmless system, but it's kind of phone gamey in a way, but, you know, they don't have any paid currency or anything for it.
Right.
So like the buildings you build, like that part I think is kind of interesting. So there's 5 regions. Not only can you build buildings to give those bonuses I was talking about, you can build buildings that if you place them next to the other buildings, enhance what those other buildings do. So
okay.
Like if you have a 10 plus, like if you make a building with plus 10% experience when you fight a battle, then you can put some other building next to it that'll raise that by a certain percentage.
Okay. Was the base building stuff in the main game itself?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Base building, missions, recruiting monsters are all new to the DLC.
Okay.
Like they obviously put a lot of work into it because there's probably... Gosh, I should have written down how many monster classes there were. There are a lot of monster classes, and that's probably where most of their dev time went, was figuring those out. I just wish they had done like more than 5 additional maps, which I've only unlocked one of the new maps, and so far that is what they call a large-scale battle. And it's just a bigger map where you can take 9 troops on instead of your typical 6 or less. But for the most part, I still really like this game. I hope they just package both the DLC and the main game together for, $20 or $25, and I think that'd be perfect because I think the main game has plenty of content and argument for it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Steam page for it here, and right now, as we're recording, it ends on July 9th. The base game is only $10. And the game and DLC is $23. Doesn't look like it's on sale right now on the Switch store, but that's a pretty good price. Would you recommend, if someone is starting the game for the first time, do you think it would be overwhelming to do both the base game and the DLC at the same time?
I think if you're a Final Fantasy Tactics veteran, I don't think it'll be overwhelming at all. Because the base game plays so much like Final Fantasy Tactics, you're mainly just going to be getting used to what things are called, right?
Oh, okay.
If you're new to a tactics game, you may want to hold off just to get used to playing a tactics game. But, I mean, I guess that's really the bottom line. If you're familiar with tactics games and games with jobs and such like that, then the DLC, for the most part, is... as perfunctory, the word I'm looking for. It's
I think so.
Yeah, like it does not.
It's not hugely impactful, but it's kind of like fun bonuses almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to engage with some of it, and it took me a little bit to like realize that I was using the same currency for missions as I was making the buildings.
Okay.
I do wish, so like when you build the buildings, you can build more buildings than you have space for, right?
Okay.
I stated that weird. You have a limited amount of space to build buildings in. We'll say that.
Right.
And so I built some stuff and then realized that they had those other buildings that give bonuses, and then I reset it, and you can't just remove one building. You have to remove them all, and it does not refund you the same amount of currency that you used to build them.
Okay.
So that's something to be cautious of, but so far, like, I think the buildings are more like, like sprinkles on the icing, I guess you could say, for the cake. Like they're cool, but they're not hugely impactful so far that I've seen.
Right. It's not like Legend of Mana where you're planting a seed on the main map and out pops a dungeon that you didn't have before. It's not that foundational.
No, like the building screen is they kind of use a sketch art style for that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool art style, but it's separate from the game, so you're not actually seeing repercussions on the map. You're just seeing bonuses in that region for whatever you're doing.
Maybe I'll scoop that up whenever I start the game. It sounds like there's enough fun kind of bonus stuff that I like. Recruiting monsters, I like sending people out on missions, and I like building buildings. Like all that stuff all together sounds like it's a DLC that's kind of made for me. So maybe I'll scoop that up.
And with this being a like an indie developer, like I suspect they're just trying to break even to keep working on whatever else they're working on right now. Like I suspect they priced this in such a way that they could discount the original game and sell the DLC and still make what they were originally selling the original game for,
Right.
But it's a real good game, and you'll easily spend, 30 or 40 hours in it, depending on what you do. I'm really enjoying maxing out all the classes, like, because I'm on my second playthrough, and you can customize the difficulty whenever you start a new game.
Okay.
So, like, all my random encounters are my level. They are not capped per whatever that particular map says.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So, like, this replay is actually fairly hard. Like, most of the battles are fairly lengthy. All the enemies have the same classes or access to the same classes and skills I do.
Oh, wow.
Can be very frustrating at times because there's a lot of healing on their end at the start.
Oh, man.
But it's, I really like the game a lot. I think the monster classes are neat. I wish, like, so far I only have like 3 or 4 monsters, but each monster seems to have like 20 classes. And I think even though they're different types of monsters, they all get the same class selections.
Okay.
But they all have their own artwork for that class. So, like, there's one class that gives them wings, for instance. And it's really cool because you see this weird dog jackal creature. I forget what it's called, but like, you can add wings onto that thing. Or, hey, here's this weird armadillo hedgehog thing, and you can give that thing wings, and it's
that's pretty cool.
it's ridiculous, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I love this game. If you're a fan of tactics, I highly recommend it. I'm hoping these guys' next venture, they maybe experiment a little bit more than they did with this, but seeing as how we haven't gotten a true Final Fantasy Tactics successor, I feel like it fills a void that is much needed in the world.
Yeah.
So, but that is all I've been playing.
All right, Mina, over to you.
Well, I too have not played very much. I'll briefly say that I did download the Persona 4 Golden off of Steam. So I went ahead and I was like, well, I know I'm going to get that. I'm going to get it sometime. Just do it now.
I'm going to play it at some point. Let's just come on in.
So I wanted to also kind of like, I really want to support Atlas putting those out on PC.
Yeah.
Especially Golden. Yeah. Because not everyone could experience Golden, and really glad they did that. So
yeah.
Went ahead and did that. The other thing I've been doing is just playing a lot of mobile games, because when I'm too sick to get out of bed or do anything, it's like, well, my phone is right here. So
that's right.
I can do this. So the first one I want to talk about is Romancing Saga Re-Universe or something like that. I don't know. It's something like that.
Yeah.
If you type Romancing Saga, I guarantee it comes up.
Yeah, it's like Romancing Saga Re-Universe or something.
Something. It's weird. So this is another one of those solo player mobile gacha games.
Mm-hmm.
it's just like another Eden in that sense. And I feel like because it's like solo adventure, there's always that pressure when you're playing like online or PvP or whatever. There's like this pressure of like you got to get the latest thing because everyone's going to get the latest thing, and
Right.
there's like this arms race that tends to happen. Whereas kind of in a solo player adventure, you kind of just get what you need, and then you don't really go in for more.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting. I don't hate it. I get dailies done in that game in less than 5 minutes. So like at worst, this can be a game that I just open up, collect rewards, and my God, every time I open up the game, it's like for the daily reset, it's just like boom, reward, boom, reward, boom, reward. I'm like, how many menu pages of rewards am I gonna have to click through?
Right.
So the game seems pretty generous. I've heard from a lot of people that it stays generous like this because it's still active in Japan. And I mean, if you're into romancing Saga, it seems like a quality game. It's an older gacha, so it's got like, it's not as shiny.
Sure, yeah.
It kind of looks like it's like a turn-based record keeper looking sort of game.
Yeah, and it very much looks like a Saga game. Like it has the sprites and everything looks how those games look.
And so I never really played any Saga games. So the one thing that I didn't like, that I thought was really cool about this is like using your characters. They slowly develop stats over time.
Right.
So like at the end of the battle, it's like, I got strength up or HP up. And like, so the stats slowly start climbing if you use the unit.
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know about the Saga series, it's made by Kawazu, the guy who made Final Fantasy II. And Saga games actually come out over here on the Game Boy Advance, or the original Game Boy is Final Fantasy Legend 1, 2, and 3. Those are Saga games. So
I didn't know that.
Yep, that's why there's
something.
That's why they're so weird, and like that's why they're kind of like broken and exploitable, is because they're actually Saga games.
Yeah, so that is kind of how I've seen this mobile game. Like it feels like when you start out, you feel kind of underpowered, but as long as you keep using these units, they start scaling like pretty high. Like I think like the base level guy that I got only had like, did he even have 100 HP? I don't even know. And it felt like I was like, I'm never going to get past this content because these monsters are doing like so much damage. But now he's like at 500 HP because I've just like been using him all the time. And I don't know. It's kind of interesting because this game won't appeal to, I'm sure, plenty of people. But if you're looking for a gacha game that seems really solo friendly kind of thing, and like you don't even have to succeed at the gacha. I think the most broken character in the game is actually farmable,
right? And like you just use them a bunch to raise their stats instead of like pull 10 of them to fuse them together to do yada yada.
So in order to upgrade you, like their level cap is based on how many times you've sharded them, but which is like getting dupes or whatever, but there's also a place that you set them, like a training dummy thing where they punch the training dummy and they slowly get shards for themselves like that. And that's also the game does allow you to buy with in-game, like the in-game like gold, not the paid currency, but the gold currency. You can actually buy these blank shards, which are used for whatever rarity unit you're using.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing. So the other element about this game. So you know how in like some gacha games there's like, there's one version of this unit and then there's a second version of this unit and a third unit. So the way this game works is like, let's say you only got like the lowest rarity of that unit, like a 1 or 2 star. I don't know how to describe the stars.
Like the vanilla version, the non-bikini version.
Yeah. Let's say you get the not summer version of the unit, and you're just kind of like, well, I'm gonna raise this one anyways. It's not that great of a unit, but whatever, you raise it. So let's say you get that better version, like that 5
the ice
star,
version,
the shiny one.
Right.
So you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have to grind all of that stuff again. No, you don't grind all that stuff again. All the stats get carried over.
Oh wow!
Like, because it's the same person. It's the same person.
That's smart.
So like the R rarity or the lowest rarity Laura is like whatever. But if you get like the higher rarity Laura, it's just like, oh great, she gets all these stats. And the other thing is that you can carry over, or you can borrow one of her skills from any rarity that she has. So like, let's say the lowest rarity version of her has like a really nice skill, and you're like, I like that skill a lot.
Right, I'm bringing that over to Summoner Laura.
Yeah, you can you can bring over that one. That's the only character I know from Romancing Saga. I have no idea. Yeah. She's the she looks like a blonde pirate or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
She looks cool. And but anyways, like, so like, let's say she's got this really cool skill on her lowest rarity, but you're just kind of like, I like that skill. You can inherit or borrow that skill on the version that you want to use.
That's cool.
So it like kind of benefits from like just like being like, oh, I can totally prepare myself for when I get the unit that I want. Like, you can kind of, set aside and start working on a unit, and then just be absolutely prepared to like level, like just immediately donate all the points. Oh, that's the other thing. So like, you get level points on the character. So like, if you're on the lowest rarity of the character and you've got like a ton of XP points, but your unit's capped, when you get the higher rarity unit, you can just dump all that XP onto the highest rarity, just immediately max level.
Oh wow.
That.
That's really smart.
So it is an incredibly smart game. I don't think a lot of people will end up being like, oh, I love it. But in terms of like, it just feels overly friendly, and
yeah,
I'm enjoying it, and it doesn't take a lot of time to do your dailies. Like I said, it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's honestly, it's one of the easiest games I have to play.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like it. So that's one of the gachas that I played. And the other gacha I'm going to talk about, I haven't played that much of it, but that's because it just came out. It is called Sinoalice.
Yeah, I started this one too.
So it's written by Yoko Taro.
Yeah, so it's something.
So you know, like, I mean, if it's going to be written by Yoko Taro, you need to have expectations. I am actually kind of shocked that, like, so parts of the stories are just, wild. Just wild.
Just weird.
But there's also parts of the stories that are actually pretty accurate to the true telling of the first version of the
fairy tales.
The original fairy tales. Like, some of them are like spot on perfect. Like Cinderella, like, disregard her personality because that is not Cinderella, but the storyline that she is explaining in her backstory, that is exactly what happens in the story.
Right.
Like the stepsisters and what they do to try and fit into those slippers.
Right.
That is exactly what happens in the real telling of Cinderella.
Yeah.
So it's kind of messed up. This game is kind of the polar opposite of Romancing Saga in a way.
Yes. Yeah. It's a full real gacha game. Like, it is, you're doing pulls, you have your banners and everything. Like, it's a fairly traditional one.
Yeah. So, the other thing about this game, I think the real selling point to this game, and if you don't enjoy this, then there is no point in continuing. I'm just going to lay this out here. It's the real-time PvP in the game. That's
Mhm.
that's the biggest selling point. You gather 15 of your guild members to go up against another 15 guild members live PvP to
Right.
battle each other. And this requires to make it pretty far into the PvP. This requires coordination, teamwork. You can't just have I want any role will do. It's kind of no, you want 5 DPS and
Right, you have your
10
build
supports.
Diversity.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's almost like an MMO if I were to lay it out.
Right.
If you're like I want to be all these classes, that's not how this is going to go.
Right.
That's not going to work in this game. It's more like you go into this game going, I'm going to be a really good healer, and I really want to be a good healer, and I want to do all the support for my team. And you join your guild, and they slot you into the back line or rear guard or whatever it's called, and you get to be a healer. And the guild battling is, honestly, I'm enjoying it, but I can 100% say a lot of people are going to bounce off this game nearly immediately because
I mean,
this
even
is
during the
selling point.
tutorial, I think a lot of people are going to bounce off because it's weird and it's dark and it's kind of a little bit brutal. It's not
Yoko
very much
Taro, yeah.
let's be friends. Here's my friend unit. It's just
No.
nope, we're not doing that here.
No. The story is as dark as you would expect from Yoko Taro. If you play
and the original fairy tales, he's not really pulling punches.
No, this is no punches. Some of them have their own lore, but this is the Grimm brothers would shed a tear over how he has written some of their stories.
Right.
They would be I heard someone say oh, I'm so mad that these characters are talking about eating each other's corpses or whatever. I'm like, yo, you did not read the original Grimm brothers stuff,
you got to read some of the original stuff here, man.
Snow White's mom legitimately wanted to eat Snow White, and she gobbled up bits and pieces of some animal or boar or whatever it was that she thought was Snow White because she was like, I want to eat her, and
that's
don't
all in the
get
game.
Me started on Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Do not read the original tale of Sleeping Beauty if you're not prepared for that. That is that is some real dark stuff.
So, quick question: is it possible to enjoy the story without engaging in the clan PvP?
Okay, so here's what I'll say. You just kind of have to prepare yourself appropriately for the game. So here's what I would suggest doing, because the clan PvP thing, it will help you fast track, I would say, but it isn't going to be necessary. You still want to kind of go in with this kind of thinking of okay, I'm going into this game and I plan on being this class, and then because the way in most gacha games, it's you can only borrow one friend unit to carry you. In this game, you can borrow 4 friend units at the same time. So if you can get your hands on 4 people who have really strong classes, and you do not care about the game, the game's PvP element, and you just want to experience the story, find you 4 overpowered people, and then pick your class to really focus in on and do
just
it that
milk
way.
them.
So I will say that the original start of this game, Yoko Taro didn't think that this game would sell. He didn't think it was going to be a very good game, and so he kind of they basically said they went in with the intention of this thing only existing for a very short while and then shutting down. That was his original intention. The game was an incredible success. It exploded, and because it exploded, he ended up having to write more story and etc. So the original first few chapters, I would say, are apparently kind of light sprinkled in the story. It's still Yoko Taro's work, but apparently the more content later becomes very, very story heavy and very, very interesting.
Okay.
So if you're kind of at the beginning of the story and you're thinking like, people are saying the story is really good, like for Yoko Taro,
Right.
this is kind of light. It's supposed to get bigger. But I will say the main draw point of this game is definitely that PvP, and I believe this is why people really love it, that support it, because it's kind of unique, and I've never played another gacha game that has this kind of PvP, because it's like, it's real time. Like your guild sets up an hour. Like my guild's like 10 p.m. Eastern, and it's like everybody logs in at 10 p.m. Eastern, and we all get into the guild battle lobby area, and then like the battle starts at like 10 on the dot, and it lasts for like 20 minutes or something, and it's just like, it's an intense war for like, it's a war, it's a full-out war for like 20 minutes, and you are going ham on this game during those 20 minutes. So like I said, it's just kind of, I don't see a lot of gacha games that do that. I don't know of very many. I'm sure there has to be, but that's probably the biggest selling point, is just one, Yoko Taro's work, and two, that guild battle system is really unique, and enjoyable. But I can tell you right now, a lot of people are gonna not like this game. So it's as divisive in the opposite direction as Romancing Saga, and that is all I've played. What about you, Boston?
All right, Final Fantasy V Forge Out Fiesta 2020 has started. I'm 2 runs deep now. I'm miraculously finished my first run. So my first run was a Chaos Berserker Risk run. So for anyone that is new to the show and maybe new to the Forge Out Fiesta, Chaos means at any time you get a new job, it picks from any of the standard jobs in the game, whether you have unlocked them at that point or not. And Berserker Risk means any of my slots, including multiple slots, could be a Berserker. So my layout, my jobs for that run were Beastmaster, Berserker, Mystic Knight, Berserker.
Do you want to explain why Berserker is such a thing, so for people who are just like, why is Berserker bad?
Yeah, so Berserker is one of those dual-edged sword sort of classes. They can only attack, and you don't control them. That's obviously the negative. The positive is they are incredibly strong. But they're going to attack the thing you don't want them to. They're going to, they're just going to go crazy until everything is dead, and then you're going to move on. This run had 2 really rough points. If you've played the Forge Out Fiesta at this point, you've probably already figured out the first one. If my second job was Berserker and my first one was Beastmaster, I had to fight Liquid Flame with 4 Berserkers.
Whoa.
Usually when you fight and beat Liquid Flame, you're maybe level like 10 to 13, depending on how strong your grouping is. I had to grind all the way up to level 25 just to get around the RNG, like just to work RNG in my favor. And even then, it took me like 10 tries to get the perfect fight. That sucked. It was at that point, not only because I was so strong, but because of 2 Berserkers and a Mystic Knight, which is basically you either destroy anything you run into, or Mystic Knight just exploits some sort of status on them. I motored my way through the game all the way up until the final boss and hit a brick wall really hard. Largely because the group doesn't have any healing whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the way the final boss is set up, you can't really DPS race them. It's possible if you have like the right party, but it's such a long fight, you kind of can't. So I had to grind up to, I think, level 49. And at that point, I had enough levels, enough elixirs, and enough to just kind of, I like one-shotted them at that point. So I started another run, and I just did a regular run. So this is when you unlock a job, your next job, it only picks from the jobs you have available. Are available from the crystal that you're unlocking the job from. So this run is Black Mage, Time Mage, Geomancer, Dancer. Kind of half good and kind of half not great. It has been a fairly challenging run, but in kind of a fun way, because Black Mage for the entirety of the first world, you're just a glass cannon. You just magic your way through everything. But now that I'm hitting the second world, my Dancer and Geomancer are sort of becoming liabilities more than anything else. So it is now becoming a pretty challenging run. I am rapidly approaching the seal crystals, which is the fight that I really, really, really don't want to do, because this is a group that is going to have a really hard time doing it. And I haven't figured out my strategy for it yet. I expect that to probably be the hardest fight in this run. And the rest of it should be pretty fine, because Time Mage can cast Float, and I'll have Reflect Rings, so I can cheese about half of the rest of the bosses in the game. And it's awesome. But yeah, Final Fantasy V Forge at Fiesta. It goes until like August 31st, I think. So if you want to hop in and do a run or two, now's a great time. Still plenty of time left. I am playing Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. The recently released Vampire the Masquerade game. This is a sort of RPG visual novel Vampire the Masquerade game. I'm playing it on Switch. You only get a choice of 3 clans to choose at the beginning, so I picked Ventrue, because the other was Bruja and I don't remember what the third one is, but the third one was maybe, yeah.
I could just start listing them.
I genuinely don't remember. It was like Bruja and Ventrue seemed like the two that I would choose, and the third one was sort of like, no, I don't think I will ever play that. So maybe it was like Malkavian. But so far I'm having a pretty good time on this. The writing is solid. I wish it was just like a little bit better. There's some stuff in the game that feels like, ironically, is maybe not necessarily up to the level of quality of Bloodlines, a 1994 game, which is sort of maybe a little frustrating, because I think for anyone that hasn't listened to it, Moonpier, Musum, and myself just played through Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines on TVGP's Game Club recently, and sort of walked away finding that was a much more mature game that in a writing aspect than maybe we were especially expecting. It handled some pretty heavy topics very, very well, much better than games have in any recent memory. So coming into this, and it not handling some of that stuff as well is maybe sort of a little disappointing, but I feel like where Bloodlines was a little bit frustrating, which is basically like, you got turned into a vampire, get out there, slugger, and like it just tosses you to the wolves. This game is very much like, we're slowly introducing you to being a vampire. This person's going to essentially vampire adopt you, and we're going to kind of teach you about all of this stuff in the world. And then there's an interesting system in the game where normally in visual novels, you get a whole bunch of text, you make a decision, you get a whole bunch of text, you sort of rinse and repeat. This one, at a lot of decision points, there are speech options So kind of talking your way through it, talking your way out of something. Or you can use your clan's power to get through that decision. So like for me, for Ventru, or at least for my character, I can essentially kind of bring them under my spell to kind of have them, make them do whatever I want them to do. The downside to that is the more you use that power, the more that you need to feed to sort of gain your strength and your powers back. So far it seems like this interesting kind of balancing act of how much do you use your power to get through some of this stuff, like almost guaranteed, as opposed to kind of going through the dialogue tree, versus how much do you kind of talk your way through it and not have to worry about figuring out how to feed next to bring your sort of your power and your strength back. So in a visual novel, it's at least a little extra layer of something that's not usually there. And the other, excuse me, the other thing you don't usually see a lot of in visual novels is there's a lot of animation in the background. Even if it's little things like there's some drapes swinging in the breeze, or like the stoplights in the city are sort of changing from green to yellow to red. There's at least a little bit of interesting effects in the background. So far it seems pretty cool. I wasn't sure that there was going to be a Vampire the Masquerade game that was more made for me than Bloodlines, but apparently I found it. And it works. It runs pretty well on Switch, which I would hope it would, because it's pictures and text. But yeah, so far I think I've played maybe 2 or 3 hours. I feel like I've made some pretty good progress. So far I recommend it. It seems pretty good. It'll hold me over until Bloodlines 2, which I think is the real end goal here. Okay. Live service games. Let's just knock out 3 of them here real quick, as the last 3 games are on my list. Diablo 3 just started season 21. Most of the time, the seasons have like a really cool, kind of fun seasonal theme. Last season was the Cube of Kanai, which is that thing where you pull out legendary gear's skills and you kind of get an extra set of them applied to your character. That one, you could apply any of them from any category. Typically, it's 1 weapon, 1 armor, and 1 ring skill. Last season, you just mix and match like crazy. That was awesome. Some seasons, it's treasure goblins appear in pairs, stuff like that. This season is occasionally elemental effects will spawn out of your body, like you'll breathe lightning, or stuff will fall from the sky, or waves of fire will roll off of you. It's not great. It's not super powerful, and as a result, it feels more annoying than rewarding, at least at the very beginning. But it's Diablo 3, and it's still a hell of a lot of fun to play. So that's why I'm starting a new season. Division 2 started its season 2. Division 2 has a really cool season setup. Number one, it's really easy to level up their season pass, battle pass, whatever you want to call it. But every 3 weeks throughout the season, they have this thing called a manhunt. You're sort of doing a seasonal manhunt, but every 3 weeks there's a new target. And it's cool because they want you to do sort of little stuff throughout the world and kind of little challenges. And all of that stuff, once you complete all that stuff, you find your target and you go and do kind of a special little bounty to take care of them. At the end of last season, basically you do 4 of those and you discover the last person, and then you go take them out, and then you get an exclusive skill out of that. Last season, there was a special variant of a mission for the very last one, which was kind of fun. It wasn't just go here, do this one, and there's a different final boss. So I don't play this as often as I do some other stuff. But like once every 3 weeks, I kind of hop in, do all this stuff, level up my season pass, get some cool cosmetics, and kind of move on. Lastly, Destiny 2, new season 11, 12, one of those. I should know this as someone who runs a Destiny website. That has started.
Destiny website again?
DestinyEmblemCollector.com for all your Destiny emblem needs. If you're looking for emblems, go check it out because the Destiny Content Vault is coming this fall, removing 2/3 of Destiny 2. That's right, you heard it. 5 out of the 9 planets and all of its content are getting removed from the game. So go wrap up whatever you need to wrap up because it's not coming back anytime soon. It's going in the Disney Vault. And the new season started. Really enjoying this one. The storyline stuff that's been happening for the last couple of seasons is kind of finally coming to fruition. At the end of the final cutscene of vanilla Destiny 2, they sort of teased these giant pyramids, these like giant evil pyramids in the sky, like way out in space. And over the last 5 or 6 seasons, so we're talking about almost 2 years, we're sort of getting these sprinkles of information, these not leaks, but like little teases that maybe they're kind of moving towards us in the solar system. And then all came to head at the end of last season when they got, like the end of last season, the beginning of the season, where they got here and they are really messing stuff up. So there's kind of a material difference to some locations in the game. And seems like that, I haven't been looking at leaks. I haven't been looking at any spoilers or anything. Seems like that might be the storyline reason why, they're going to be removing planets is because the, pyramids will just destroy them. Which there's basically, Rasputin, the big like Russian supercomputer that helps you throughout the game, he's been a much larger presence in the game lately. In the intro cutscene to this season, he's running like defense simulations against some planets and finds out that he can't defeat the pyramids and he can't stop them from destroying planets, so he just leaves. He just disappears. It's like, wow. Oh, cool, our last defense has left. Fantastic. So it's interesting. They're finally making good over the last couple seasons on them trying to make an evolving storyline that doesn't just happen every fall of every year with one big story expansion. Then you're kind of like trickling and pulling us along throughout the entire, the other 11 months of the year. So Destiny, if you're interested in playing Destiny 2, Destiny 2 is in a really solid place right now. And friendly reminder, Destiny 2 is free to play. And you get a fairly significant amount of that game for free. So Destiny 2's, I am admittedly a little partial, but Destiny 2 is pretty good. And I'm having a pretty good time. But that's all the games I've been playing. So let's talk about our releases for our July 2020 before we go here. One of my most anticipated games this year is coming out, Crosscode, on the 9th for the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. I have been waiting to play this ever since it came out on PC, and everyone was saying, hey, this is one of the best RPGs that's come out in a really long time. It is a fun and challenging RPG with fun and challenging puzzles that are genuinely challenging, not just like, put the blue box on the blue pedestal. Whoa! Apparently it is some pretty good stuff in there. So I'll probably be scooping that up on Switch here this week as long as it runs fine. Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town comes out on PC and Switch on the 14th. So if you're Jones... Yeah, if you're jonesing for some more Story Seasons, scoop it up. And lastly, Paper Mario The Origami King comes out on Switch on the 17th. I'm really looking forward to this game because the battle system looks really, really crazy. In a way that if anyone hasn't seen it, basically there's like 3 or 4 rings around your party is in the middle, and there's 3 or 4 revolving rings that you control around you with enemies on them. And you're kind of shifting those rings to kind of move the enemies into position to where you can attack as many of them as at the same time as you can. And like as they're advancing, you're kind of spinning them out of the way to kind of manage them. It looks really cool. It's nice to see that they are evolving that series past what it sort of typically is. You know, like line up on the left, line up on the right. They flip because they're paper. But I know the last couple haven't been super well received. But I'm curious to see how well this one does, because I feel like I could be down for a Paper Mario game. It has been, I was gonna say it's been a real long time. The last Mario RPG I played was on the Super NES, so it's been a very long time.
Oh man, and that one someday.
It's I feel like it. If you use a walkthrough with it, I feel like it probably holds up really well. Otherwise, it can be a little bit confusing. Where Mario is sort of like, we got to go over and do this thing, and you're like, I don't know where that is. Where am I supposed to go? But yeah, it's fun. The original is really fun. But that's all of our RPG releases for July 2020, which means we are done with our episode for this month. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at pickingupthepixels.com. All the places to find and follow us on the right-hand side of the page. Patreon.com/E1M1. The ones are numbers. You get cool behind-the-scenes early access shows. And I get to get a little bit of help paying for these shows because they are very expensive. So we both win at the end of the day. Patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, where can we find you out on the internet? I was trying to remember what I did last. That's it.
You can find me at jbaudio.net. And that'll have links to everything.
And Mina, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitch or on YouTube at Mina K.O. Rocket.
And you can find all my shows at e1m1.com. And like I just talked about a couple minutes ago, DestinyEmblemCollector.com. Wink. I think that's all of our episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.